She didn't do anything but just have a conversation with Anakin, who also wasn't there. It was clearly like present Anakin in the Force.
It makes no sense. Midichlorians is a stupid concept, but it's here now, and we have to deal with it, and this is what's happening.
Right when you're cloned, you clone other. That way, it takes years for him to grow up, and then he'll live 60 years beyond that age. And then you do it again.
All three of us have said in no uncertain terms there's going to be some type of time thing going on.
The reality was he didn't run her through, which he should have if he was really trying to kill her.
When they get ready to go to hyperspace or to light speed, they do exactly what the Starship Enterprise does, and you can see the hyper engines like starting to glow blue, and then it ping, and it goes.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Black and White Reviews. My name is Lee.
And my name is Chuck.
And my name is Will.
And you didn't do the your opening bit.
What opening bit? Oh, this is a show where we talk about what, that thing?
No, your opening, like, this is welcome to hey everyone out there in podcast land.
That's not my bit.
He does
That's
hey
your
everybody.
Bit.
You do
Yeah,
you
hey,
do
everybody.
broadcast land. He does hey everybody.
Broadcast land. He's podcast land.
How am I broadcast land?
Because you said
it, and we're like, all right, fine. I guess that's what you do.
That's right.
You
I
said it.
messed
You
up,
said
and
it one day. You're like, "Oh, did I say broadcast?" And we all decided that that's your thing now.
That's just your thing now.
That's just what you do.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So, today we are talking about the 5th episode of the Star Wars Disney Plus series, Ahsoka. This one's called Shadow Warrior, and I'm I'm a little shocked that Will has watched this episode more times than I have.
I've
And
watched
it's
this
only
4
been out
times.
for 4 times.
You watched it 3.
3, and I kind of didn't want to watch it the 3rd time, but I actually was really happy that I did.
I watched it once.
I watched it one time to enjoy it. Actually, it took me a couple of runs through. First, I watched the very beginning to see where it was going, to see if I was right, which I absolutely was. And then watched the rest of it, and then I watched it again to take notes, and then I watched it again with you, and I was like, okay, like and I added like a couple of quick things. But this episode it's 5 of 8, right? Or 8 or 9?
8.
9? 8?
Is it 9?
I said
9.
6 last time and it ended up being 8.
9.
Okay.
It's 8.
Let me see here.
We talked about this last week when I said we're there's only 2 episodes left, and then Will looked up and said, "Oh, it's only 8."
Yeah, 8 episodes altogether. So I know how I feel about it, but I want to start with you guys. I'm gonna ask Chuck. Chuck, what were your thoughts on this episode? Like initial thoughts, basic thoughts.
I feel like I'm going to be the odd man out on this episode.
Okay.
There were parts I enjoyed. Overall, I was not a fan of this episode.
Okay. What are the specific things that made you not a fan?
Anakin Skywalker.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
I'm 40 years. 40 years of Anakin and Darth Vader, and we killed him off. Disney stops. Thanos said it. No more. I know it's Marvel, but no more resurrections. We need to stop finding ways to resurrecting characters for this. There was some cool parts, like when he comes back into the world between worlds, and you see the light flash, and he goes from Anakin to Darth back to Anakin.
Yeah.
That there was special effects like that were really cool.
Yeah. The imagery was
The
awesome.
imagery was really cool. I think the idea of her. You're finishing your training. This was first of all, we've seen this already in Empire Strikes Back when Anakin fought when Luke fought Darth Vader, and it ended up being himself. Like let's just do this storyline all over again. And then they went back in time. Time travel. Woo! Here's how we did time travel. Let's go back to the Clone Wars. Come on. It's I can't believe I just said we went back in time in Star Wars, and we went back to the Clone Wars. They did exactly what Butterfly Effect
they did exactly what I said.
They did
They Christmas caroled it.
No.
I said that last week. They completely Christmas caroled it.
They did what butterfly effect did. They sent their future consciousness into their past selves.
But he can't. They didn't make changes to
Hold
anything.
on. Let's back up and
We don't know that.
let's
We
back
don't
up for
know
1
that
second.
yet.
Let's back up for 1 second and not get lost in these weeds right now. All three of us have said in no uncertain terms there's going to be some type of time thing going on at some point. We have all said that. We've all agreed on that. So let's not get bogged down by what this exactly is. It's a time thing that Star Wars is doing.
Right. But the way, when I saw it, what I thought about was butterfly effect. When he went back into the past, his consciousness went back into the past.
Well, her
and
consciousness.
Took over the, in butterfly effect.
This is closer to Christmas Carol than it is butterfly effect.
I agree with Lee. This is closer to Christmas
butterfly
Carol.
effect. He literally goes back to that stuff, and like when he does something, it immediately changes his present.
Right, but we don't know, except for the fact that she's on the planet. We don't know what else.
She didn't do anything. She didn't do anything but just have a conversation with Anakin, who also wasn't there. It was clearly like present Anakin in the Force that was talking to her
younger self, in the middle of
She looked like her younger self, yes, and she was in a fantasy mind trip of what was going on. There was no time travel here.
Was she?
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm on board with that one. There was clearly a time thing going on.
We don't know.
Think about every other time that we've seen a Force ghost. It is like a hologram thing that's going on, and now all of a sudden it's like Anakin in the flesh. This is something different.
She was like in the Speed Force type thing. That's what was different. She wasn't like, if she saw him there on top of the ocean.
Okay,
sure, he'd look like that.
So let's go with that then. She's in the Speed Force, and when Flash went into the Speed Force, what happened?
What's DC?
He changed time.
That's time travel. It's not what's happening here. We're talking about the Force. I'm saying the Force where you can like be in this like world between worlds kind of limbo thing.
But
when you guys first saw it, all you thought was, oh great, here's the multiverse. Look at all the paths that go every which way.
I never thought that.
That's what Will thought.
No, I look at the opening. The opening credits is clearly like a line going all over the place in between galaxies and up and down. That's the whole reason why with the opening credits, that's like painting that picture, and then you get the Witch Lady a couple of episodes talking about Thrawn's calling to me across time and space. What else am I supposed to think?
Right.
I think, this is just me, if it was a Force ghost, why didn't Obi-Wan finish Luke's training? Why did Anakin
Luke wasn't like dying and in between life and death like Ahsoka just was.
Oh, I thought she wasn't close to dying.
Oh,
she was underwater. She was drowning.
According to you last week, he wasn't trying to kill her.
He didn't kill her and then throw her off. He just pushed her off
into water.
Yeah, into water
to kill her.
Right. My point is, she could have survived, and he knew that. She's a Jedi. The reality was he didn't run her through, which he should have if he was really trying to kill her. When you're just trying to get somebody off, like a gnat off of you, you just go like this and you swat them. So you don't come at them with the electric paddle,
like Darth Vader throwing the Emperor down the tube. Yeah, they changed everything about Star Wars in this episode. No more Force ghosts. We're going to go into the world between worlds because Anakin's not dead. Resurrections are happening again. Hence why Will has been saying for 6 months now that he's been doing press conferences. Why? Because here he is. And we said it last week.
There he was, yes.
And we said it last week. We're either it's going to be an episode full of him and her, or it's going to follow Sabine. In this case, it was an episode of him and her.
Yeah.
And
Christmas caroling through it.
There was no present and there was no future.
That's irrelevant.
I agree with Lee on this one. This is Christmas Carol. This is way more Christmas Carol than it is Butterfly Effect.
The only reason why I say Butterfly Effect is because of the contrast of present consciousness going into past self, which is exactly what happened in this episode.
Visually, sure.
Yeah.
That's the only similarity there, is that visually she was back into her younger body to stimulate.
But I don't agree with that one either. I think that this is clearly like the world between worlds or whatever place there was. I think it was clearly established that this is a place that she went.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this is like a mind trip thing that she's going through.
Right. I think that this is like the Matrix 2, where there's the hallway and all those doors. Like I said last week.
I'm with that.
And
a lot more than her just underwater drowning. Like clearly, like astral projection, whatever you want to call it. Luke did it, so why not? And she's just somewhere else. I'm more on board with that. I'm more on board with that than everything taking place in her head.
She's drowning, and everything that's going on in her head is happening in probably a split second. But that's when she's underwater.
No,
drowning.
it's not had a split second, because what's his name is listening to it. He's hearing the lightsabers.
Right.
So it wasn't a split second.
Okay, I'm not split second, but the point is we don't know how long she was there. And the only reason why she survived is probably the Force, in my assumption that time travels or time moves differently when you're having some kind of weird Force trip.
They had enough time to stop and listen to the lightsabers and then regroup and go out over the water and search for her and swing back around and do it all over again. And we're going to make another pass. Like, this is a long time. This wasn't...
Well, first of all, let's go back, because she actually fell in the water way before they even showed up.
Mm-hmm. Did she?
So, yeah.
Did she?
So that's relevant.
I don't think she did.
What?
I don't think she did.
You don't think she fell in the water?
What? I don't think she fell in the water until Anakin sent her there.
Well, that's an idea.
You think she was immediately transported somewhere?
I think Anakin transported her 100% before she fell into the water. And because it happened in that place, she woke up there. Not her consciousness. She woke up there.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean,
it makes more sense than her sitting underwater for an hour and a half.
True.
Valid.
So I think that she was taken there, time travel. Her consciousness went back to the Clone Wars, because here's the thing: is when they went back to the Clone Wars,
her consciousness went back. Then where was her body? If not in the water.
Her body was in the world between worlds. That where she was
in limbo.
It was on that bridge where she was. Her body went back. I mean, her mind went back. That's why when they went back, you didn't see the place that they were in. You were back in the actual battle.
I feel like I'm watching Lost all over again, and we're having arguments about purgatory. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah.
But I think that that's exactly what happened. Okay. Is that this is Star Wars way of Star Wars took a bunch of different things. I think primarily butterfly effect, and shifted her consciousness to the past. And it was one of their ways to bring the Clone Wars into live action.
I can't agree with that, because I feel like if that's the case, then they're going to do it more, and it makes no sense.
Of course they are.
She was not changed. Well, yeah, like that, but she's not.
If you don't, okay,
for example, it's not butterfly effect.
This is clearly, and I'm gonna blow both of your minds when I take my turn, but they are clearly like using this episode as like a tester. How well does this concept do? Can we push this forward? Is this going to work?
Oh yeah, no, I get that.
Okay,
like going back, seeing this, and having a past, present, future, whatever type trip.
Yes,
that makes sense.
So let me ask you this: she comes back.
I wouldn't say they're going to go around and start changing things in the past this way. I mean, maybe they will.
No.
She comes back to She comes back. She talks to the Purgle. She takes off. That's the rest of the episode that happened.
Yeah, I know.
It's confined to what's happening here. We don't know. I'm willing to bet that we see Anakin again, but this time not in the world between worlds.
I don't know about that.
How do you know?
I just said I don't know about that. I didn't say I know. I said literally I don't know.
But you're saying it in a way like you don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen. But...
Exactly. But what I'm trying to say is, what if we don't know what's been changed yet? We've been secluded and confined to this one situation. Mm-hmm. We don't know this galaxy that could have changed because of what happened from that moment.
Absolutely.
It's only because he's so different. It's the first time we've seen a Force ghost in the physical form.
Yeah.
So they're introducing I don't want to call it a Force ghost, but there's no other word that I have right now. So it's like it is clearly Anakin in the flesh. I don't think you can get away with that. And I don't want to call it a Force ghost because it's different than anything else that we've seen, but I don't know. It's full on Anakin. I agree with you 100%. This is full on Anakin. I do not think this is a hallucination. I don't think that this is just all in her head mind trip. I didn't think about the idea of her transporting somewhere, but after you said it, I kind of like it. It makes more sense than her drowning.
Yeah, I mean, she could have just been floating on top of the water.
She was underneath the water when someone dove in.
They dove in and grabbed her.
Yeah,
so.
eventually when she sunk. But okay,
Sometimes
you even get that image. You even get that image at the end when Anakin puts her back and she starts like sinking into the water. Like there's that
which
whole
was
thing.
really cool.
Yes,
it was really cool
because he cut the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Sure.
I mean, the bridge just dissipated.
Yeah,
No,
kind
he
of.
cut the bridge.
Yeah,
that was before.
At one point, yeah, when he first
when
sent
they
her
say
back down to
goodbye,
whatever,
when
without
they
much
say their
sink.
goodbye,
Yeah.
the bridge just kind of like fades away, and then she's like
that's right.
sinking into
Yeah.
water.
He cut the bridge, and she goes back into the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That's what that part was. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Will?
You really want me to go next? I'm gonna blow your minds.
You loved this episode.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I cannot believe that I'm gonna say this. I think Hayden Christensen gave one of the finest performances in Star Wars history, maybe outside of Empire. This was fantastic. I said last week and the week before that, I said if this is some kind of redemption for Hayden Christensen, I'm all on board, and it absolutely was. He nailed this. This was phenomenal. He absolutely nailed this. He embodied the character through and through. I think his acting skills are far superior to when we last saw him in Sith. He is amazing at this role. They're doing, let me finish. They are doing a better job with Hayden Christensen than they did with Mark Hamill, and that's saying something. That's saying a lot. And for me to say that, like, I did not like him back 20 years ago. I was not a fan of what he was doing in those movies. But just everything about his character in this was amazing. And when he entered that stance and he started fighting, he's so brutal. He's so brutal with it. I could not believe what I was actually watching, and I had to stop and I had to watch it again just to make sure, and it was just as incredible my second time through as it was my first. Everything with the whole Clone Wars and him teaching her everything, and the transition between him and Vader. They even have one part where he's walking back onto the bridge and he goes, "You lack conviction." They did some weird thing with his voice where it was like a mashup between Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones, and they just kind of like blended it together when he said that line. I loved this entire episode. I think this was amazing. And it's not recency biased. I went and I watched a couple of episodes of Andor. I still think that's A+ tier. Right? I went and I watched a couple of episodes of Mandalorian, and I still think...
Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm. Dun, dun, dun.
What happened?
So...
Did I cut out?
Bud?
Wiser.
Am I alone?
I guess we'll just keep on trucking here.
Am I alone? What happened?
Well, while we're waiting for Will to come back,
are you serious? What happened?
Oh, hi, welcome back.
Oh my God! How long was I out?
Hi. Oh, for a little bit.
For a little bit.
A good minute. About a minute.
Really?
About like a solid minute. Yeah.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
And another thing.
No, seriously.
I don't remember.
What his stance.
Oh, yeah. His stance was incredible. When he goes to enter the stance and he's getting ready to fight, because his fighting style, he was brutal. And I thought that was fantastic. When just everything, I loved everything about this episode. I can't stop talking about it. I've been thinking about this nonstop since I watched it. When he's coming back onto the bridge, they do this weird audio thing with his voice, and I think it was like a mashup between his voice and James Earl Jones' voice, and they just blended them together. And I thought that was...
They even had like the breath.
The breath and everything that he was walking out with, like, and I was thinking to myself, okay,
and then the flashes.
If this is the way they're going to bring Hayden Christensen back into Star Wars, I'm all for it. If they want to go back and they want to do a live action Clone Wars type deal and keep it limited, I'm all for that. If they want to make him a final Force ghost boss that like would-be Jedi have to go and like do something with, I'm all for that. I never thought I would be saying things like this. When it was over, I was like, good, it's over, he's gone, goodbye. Now I'm walking back almost everything I've ever said about this man. He was fantastic. And it really says something. It really says something that Star Wars is doing a better job with Hayden Christensen than they did Mark Hamill. That's a lot. That's a lot. I loved this episode through and through. And it's not recency bias. I promise it's not recency bias.
Okay.
I went and I watched
things.
a couple of episodes of Andor, still A+ tier. Went and watched a couple of episodes of the first season of Mandalorian, still A+ tier. I watched a little bit of Rogue One, still an A+ film. And then I went back and I watched this again and I said, no, it's not recency bias. This is amazing. Through and through, this was incredible. Except for the end with the whales. I hated that. But everything else I thought was perfect.
Okay, so okay. So the special effects were awesome. I love the fact that he comes on the bridge and you hear his breathing, and you see him going from Darth Vader and back. I love the fact that Darth Vader's march was actually in this episode.
Yeah.
That was really cool. But Hayden Christensen did two things. He stood there and talked, and he had a lightsaber battle. Outside of that, he did nothing.
But it was everything he delivered was good. His emotion was actually emotional.
Yes.
For once.
Yes.
And it was spot on.
Yes.
And honestly, I love it when
this is a million times better than "You will not take her from me." Like, that was stupid when that was so dumb when he did that.
So I will say that his acting is better than it was when he was in Revenge of the Sith.
120%. Yes.
Yes. What the premise of what they're doing, though, I can't get across.
So you also only watched the episode once. I liked it the first time. I said, "Oh, that was really cool." Second time I watched it, took notes. I'm like, "Oh, that was, that actually was pretty awesome." This last time watching it with you on Friday, I was like, "Oh, wow!" Like, they really did redeem him.
Yes.
Like, his character is completely redeemed. The actor is redeemed.
I don't care if they redeem him or not. 40 years of Darth Vader. He's done. Good. Fine. Stop bringing. Don't
but
bring.
They had to
time
bridge
travel into it.
No, they had to bridge this gap because once they introduced him in the Clone Wars, as having a Padawan, for him to finally have this conversation, you see what happens to him after he's dead from the world, and you can see why he was standing there at the end of Return of the Jedi when Lucas did his Blu-ray thing. This made sense and was awesome because
it actually does a great job for Ahsoka's character too, because now it's like I completely understand why she's so standoffish. Like, I get it now, and it's because of this. Like, it makes so much sense, and it makes her character so much better.
Okay, I will walk all of this back if this is where they leave Hayden Christensen and Darth Vader.
I think they are. I think they're leaving him. They're not. If he does come back, it's going to be like a voice or a brief, him just going, and that's it. Like that. I don't think they're going to go further with him. And keep bringing
definitely
him back
think
like
they're going to go further. They're going further with this.
With him?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Really?
No resurrections this time.
I don't know.
Resurrections this. Here's the thing: this is in between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. And I said this before. They're going to try to find a way to retcon the sequel trilogy,
which they should. Which
they should. And this is what they're going to do.
They're going to move on. They're going to move on to a new galaxy, so none of it's relevant.
Or
that's what they're doing.
Or they're going to go back. Or they're going to go back in time, butterfly effect, and change something that changes history. That doesn't happen.
I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm
not going to argue with you on it.
I'm going to repeat myself. If they want to do a live action Clone Wars, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Like I said, the beginning of Clone Wars, the first few seasons where it's just them against Grievous, is really dumb and boring, really childish.
No.
Like,
I don't mean all of it. I don't mean all of it. I mean,
No.
like, condense everything down into like a movie or like an 8-part series thing, whatever.
Yeah,
that
it would have to be something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
all for it.
They've
if they
also
brought
touched
him,
upon
the
that
thing-
with,
if
like,
they
Tales
brought
of the Jedi and whatnot.
right, if they brought him in for something like that, fine,
Mhm.
fine. But that's not what they're doing though, because he's 20 years older.
Or another, and I'm repeating myself again. Maybe I cut out when I said this. If they use Anakin as like a final training exercise for any would-be Jedi in the future.
Mhm.
Like if Rey had to deal with like a Force Anakin to train, that would have made Rey a better character. That's what I mean. That's what they should do with Anakin. Do I think they should bring him back live in the flesh and he's on the ground fighting in the battles? No, I don't think that they should do that. But they should find a way to utilize him, because he's the perfect balance of like good and evil. And we got that. And that's, I think, and it goes back to Well, it goes back to like the original story that Anakin was
Mhm.
supposed to be the balance. Well, guess what? This is Anakin as the balance. This is it.
Yeah, and it's so cool.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was the watching it again, for the third time. I'm not gonna say I was in tears, but I was like, this is so redeeming.
Yes.
For everything else Disney's put out as far as Star Wars. I mean, Mandalorian was cool, it was its own thing. And then they totally botched it in the third season. Even with Boba Fett botching that. It was like the best part of Boba Fett was the Mandalorian, but they brought back Grogu, and I'm like, but no.
Yeah.
And it's like you just undid what you done did.
They ran it into the
Why?
ground. They ran
Oh,
Grogu into the ground.
so bad. But like this is such a redeeming thing for the franchise because they took a character that everybody was so like,
Yeah.
his acting was garbage, and we love the story of Anakin, but it could have been done so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And here, it was a way for him to do what he should have always done. Um, it was I loved. Are you good with yours, Will?
I think I've made my case.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think this is the finest performance in
Yeah.
Star Wars since maybe Luke and Empire.
Right.
That's my thoughts. That's
So, I mean, we're all kind of talking about the one thing, which is the main thing here, which is Anakin's return, or Hayden Christensen's return as Anakin in this. So with that,
So before you go,
okay,
sorry, I just want to read this review on this episode. Following the blast from Star Wars Past, who showed up at the end of Ahsoka Episode 4, the 5th episode saw Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen, take his former Padawan Ahsoka, Rosie O'Donnell.
what?
Rosario Dawson.
Because Rosie O'Donnell
right,
was in this
on an actual journey into her past, having ended up in the world between worlds, a mystical dimension within the Force that touches every point of time and space in the Star Wars universe, aka the hallway in Matrix. Ahsoka was forced to go head to head with Anakin in a lightsaber duel that transported the pair to pivotal points in time of their shared history in order to quote unquote finish her training. A younger version of Ahsoka first found herself, and then it goes into what happened. But at the whole thing, she actually transported in time. This was not her conscious actually did this. This is what people are saying.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask you a question before you continue? Let me just ask you one question. Are you surprised that Anakin can do that? Would that surprise you? If Anakin has the ability to actually take somebody out of their place in time and bring them somewhere else, would that surprise you?
Yes, it does.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
And the reason why it does is because you have 40 years of lore between books and movies and TV shows, and you have the Emperor who somehow came magically back to life, and you have all of this stuff that happened. Luke doing his, crazy,
that's what I mean. Like, if Luke is capable of like astral projecting himself across the galaxy, why wouldn't Anakin be able to do something similar? If not more powerful than that.
Why? Because one drastic difference. He is dead. He's dead. That's what makes it different. If he was alive and he found a way to do something like this, fine. He was able to, like the Flash, go into this force and mimic things and do stuff. Luke was alive when he astral projected because he is dead. D-E-A-D. Dead. He's not alive.
Yoda burned down a Jedi temple and he was dead.
Yeah, and that's why they're retconning stuff like that.
Right.
Because it's stupid. And they want to retcon the entire sequel trilogy because of stuff like that.
All right. Listen.
No.
You're
He's dead. Loki was dead.
I love this. We'll continue to go back and forth, but we both got to have our say. Just let Lee get everything out that he wants to get out. Okay. I feel like you kind of cut him off there for a minute, so
it's all right. I will. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I agree with you pretty much everything you said.
Cool.
So basically, the whole thing is here to finish your training. One's never too old to learn, and the whole thing is it live or die, right? That's the question that he asked, and she's like, "I'm not going to fight you." He's like, "Yeah, I've heard that before." That made me laugh. I didn't catch that until the third time. He's like, "Yeah, I've heard that before," because it's exactly what Luke said to him. He's like, "I
Yeah.
will not fight you. I will not fight you." And then he's like, "Oh, maybe she will." Never. That's exactly what that is. And I thought that was amazing. And the duel they have is sweet. It is
Yes.
a sweet duel. And then go ahead, cut the bridge down. We have the whole Christmas Carol thing. Call it whatever you want. I'm gonna say Christmas Carol. Different stages of the Clone Wars, and you see her having compassion for the fallen. I actually really like that scene where she like reached her hand on him and he grabbed her hand, which it was like you're seeing that like there was a relationship between the soldiers and the Jedi. And if you did watch the Clone Wars or really anything where you see how these clones were, it's like they weren't just these, you know, Xeroxed people. It's like Rex and Cody and all these characters were it was a big deal. You had relationships with them. I'm not sure how everybody knew who was who. I mean, they had just different markings on their helmets. That was basically it. But later on, like different hairstyles and stuff like that would change things up. But they had relationships, and you saw it here. Um, but I mean, there were so many great lines here. But he's like, he trained her to, to be a soldier, a fighter, and he goes off on how Obi-Wan taught him they were keepers of the peace, but now, it's all about war. You know, um, it's just for me. And I think so many people who've watched the Clone Wars and everything and are so into the characters. This was such it was I don't want to say fan service because it was so well done. Usually, fan service is something where it's like, oh, let's just throw them a bone. This was like strictly like this was fan service for everything that we thought was messed up. The fact that the Clone Wars didn't really translate too well, if you watch the Clone Wars and then you watch Revenge of the Sith, it actually makes a lot more sense, and it's really really cool because of the way it ties in with Order 66. It's actually amazing because it actually takes place in the middle of Sith. The Clone Wars show goes into the middle of Six. It goes
Oh
all the way
wow.
up to Order 66,
Okay.
which is so cool.
Yeah.
So when you do that and then you watch Sith, it's like it blows your mind. It's amazing. Anyway, but the whole point is like if I just I don't want to fight, and he goes, well, if you don't fight, you're gonna die. That's it. And that's when he walks off, and you get that amazing shot
Yeah.
of him walking, and the saber goes from blue to red, and you see him as Vader,
Yeah.
and it cuts back like through the fog. Like I know it could look cheesy, but it was the score, the visual of it, and the moment where it's like you're seeing what she's been seeing, and she's starting to finally put everything together. Oh, because I was trained by this guy who was so conflicted. Here's how it affected me, and I taught myself to be tough and not let people in and everything because I had to be a soldier and not a Jedi, which was the peacekeepers like the past.
Mm.
So we get that she's going off on the whole death and war legacy and everything. Live or die, and then the red saber and the red eyes, and the
Yeah.
duel continues. And then when she finally, when she finally gets kicked back out, you hear the Darth Vader breathing, "Time to die, and I choose to live." And then he puts he stops, puts his head down, and then looks back up, and his eyes are normal again. And he's just like, "Oh, there's hope for you yet." It was like just saying those words don't really do it justice. The way that he pulled it
The
off,
way that
his
he delivered
emotion,
them.
the way he delivered it, the way that he was still being, evil Vader. He was being Vader, and you could see him have the ability to switch and not like oh, okay, we're good. Like not like a quick transition. It was a perfectly timed and thought out transition in his face that just blew my mind. And I'm like, this really is such a redeeming thing for this actor. I don't think that Hayden Christensen's going to go off and be like the next big thing because of this. But it does redeem everything he did before that people were pooping all over forever.
I agree.
So I just thought that like that whole entire thing with Anakin was beautifully done,
And I
it
really
makes
hope
the episode the best episode of the season of the series so far.
I
I don't know where they're going to go with it, but we'll see.
I have the hope that I don't think he's going to become the next big thing. I'm with you. But I do have the hope that this is kind of like a resurgence of his career. Because he deserves a second chance. I think after this man deserves a second shot at being like an actor and like to do what he wants to do, because he's been taking it on the chin for what, 20 years at this point? Like, this poor guy. And then
it's hard though, because he's so typecast,
yeah,
because you don't take on a role like this and not get known as, oh, you're the Darth Vader kid.
sure.
You're the guy who was Darth Vader and you did such a bad job. And then you came back and did a better job. He's still Darth Vader. He's always going to be that. It's not ever going to change, whether it's good or bad.
I think he'll always be Anakin.
Yeah.
James Earl Jones will always be Darth Vader.
Right. Yeah.
So can I read something real quick? I found another review. I'm going to read this. It's a few paragraphs. It says, this goes back to Rebels. Ezra's visit to the world between worlds only occurs with one episode in the final season of Rebels. So the realm has not been explored all in depth. We are likely to get more information about it through its appearance in Ahsoka, though. In Rebels, Ezra finds the entrance to this realm as he is investigating an Imperial operation at the Jedi Temple. Emperor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious, has been searching for the entrance, as he believed controlling the world between worlds would mean having complete control of all the galaxy, past, present, and future. While Ezra explores the realm, he encounters a myriad of different doorways that lead to different points and places in time. One of these doorways shows Ahsoka Tano's battle with Darth Vader at the end of Rebels Season 2. The young Jedi witnesses the battle, and just as Vader is about to kill Ahsoka, Ezra reaches out and pulls her through the doorway. He removed her from that point in time and brought her into the world between worlds with him. As the two survey the realm together, Ezra is tempted to go back and save the life of his master, Kanan Jarrus, as well. But Ahsoka explains to Ezra that they cannot change the past and that they must let things happen as they will. Shortly after Ezra decides to leave Kanan's fate, as is, Ahsoka and Ezra encounter Darth Sidious through one of the portals. Fearing he will gain access to the realm, they quickly flee, and Ezra seals the entrance. However, one key aspect to know is that Ahsoka returns to the time and place that she was taken from, rather than joining Ezra on Lothal. This is crucial. Lothal. This is crucial because the Rebels Season 2 finale briefly showed Ahsoka leaving that location where she dueled Vader. She always survived, but it was not immediately clear how. Ezra pulling her out of the battle did not change the past. It showed how she had survived all along. That event had always happened, and her returning to that point closed the loop. The world between worlds is a tricky thing to introduce to Star Wars because it does flirt very closely to time travel. But having Ahsoka return to her time in Rebels, Filoni avoided creating any sort of quote-unquote paradoxes with the Star Wars timeline. There were no Back to the Future 2 style alternate futures created, nor, to borrow an MCU term, were there any branching timelines established. The Star Wars galaxy remained as it was and had always been. By bringing the world between worlds back in Ahsoka, Filoni is attempting to balance on the edge of that knife once again. So, she is physically there. She physically goes there, which means Anakin is physically there. How? Great. He did a great acting job. Fantastic that the lightsaber duels were some of the best I've seen in a long time. The special effects were awesome.
You asked how. It's one word.
He's dead.
No, it's midichlorians. That's it. I'm sorry. I know you don't like it. I understand that you don't like it. You know what? On the surface, I don't like it either. Because I'm the guy who always says if you're going to do a resurrection, you have to make it cost something. The cost if
Anakin wasn't dead and this episode happened, everything you guys are saying, I would be on board with. Because Hayden Christensen did a much better job in this episode than he has done in Obi-Wan, than he did in the prequel trilogies, and any of that stuff. The lightsaber battles were fantastic. The special effects was fantastic. The going back and seeing the Clone Wars live action was really cool. The only part that ruins it for me is the fact that she is not mentally there. She is physically there, which means so is Anakin.
Fine.
Which means
this is not, but the issue that I'm having
he's returned. He has returned.
The issue that I'm having with what you're talking about, if this was any other franchise, I would say the same thing. If you're gonna do a resurrection, make it cause something. But because death has always been kind of a subjective thing in the Star Wars universe, I kind of forgive it. This is not a giant leap.
Aside from the Emperor, which everyone says that he was cloned, where has death been subjective in the Star? Aside from the 3 Force ghosts that we see.
Yeah, exactly. You
But
have
they're
Yoda.
Force ghosts.
You have Yoda at the end of Sith going, training for you. I have Qui-Gon. Blah 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 blah. So okay, we have that. We have Obi-Wan interacting with Luke. We have Yoda dead, interacting, like burning down a temple. Like this is not. It is not a novel concept that just because you're dead in Star Wars doesn't mean that you're gone. This is the next logical step. Thank you.
The Force ghost part I'm fine with because you're using the Force as a Jedi to speak to somebody in the Force. The part I have a hard time with is Anakin is not a Force ghost. He is physically actually there.
But he's not.
It's Anakin.
He's in the world.
Yeah.
It's Anakin.
If she can go back into her old body, he can go back into his old body.
You have
what
to
happen. You're talking about consciousness.
You're talking about 40 years
He
worth
was
of
there.
lore. You're talking about 40 years worth of lore with Anakin or Darth Vader. He's the most powerful thing in the galaxy. This does not blow my mind that he's able to do this at all.
Except for one thing. You're right. She can go into her past because she's alive. He is physically there. He already died. He is dead.
He's a Force ghost.
No, he's not.
Midi-chlorians.
He's not a Force ghost.
Didn't they had this conversation in Sith where him and the Emperor were all like, yeah, Dark Plagueis or whatever his name was, and he learned how to like
teach you how to live forever.
Teach you how to like live forever, and you can even like avoid death or escape death or something in that language. It does not listen.
Right.
The groundwork for this has been laid. It's not.
No.
This is not new. This is not new.
I'm sorry, he is Agent Smith in the hallway in Matrix 2. He just became Agent Smith. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah,
You can't. It's the world between worlds where they can actually go to any place, past, present, or future. Come on.
I've been saying
Star
this.
Wars,
I've been saying time travel for more than a year, so I'm not shocked.
I know. Neither am I, but
this
I still
is not
hate
surprise.
it.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I do because it's 40. It's not like Star Trek where time travel was like from the beginning. It's always been possible.
In a world where we watch Leia Mary Poppins her way back onto a ship after being sucked out into the vacuum of space,
and everybody hated it.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody hated it, but this is not.
And they're trying to retcon it. And I think that they're going to find a way through this. Anakin is now alive. Butterfly effect just happened, and he is going to come back through a door at some point in time in history, and it will be after his death.
The only part of this
after Luke.
The only part of this that I'm going to agree with you on, that I'm on board with, and that I'm absolutely going to hate, is I do think you're right. I do think they're going to go into a different galaxy, and they're going to start something different, and it's going to somehow retcon the sequel trilogy. That's what I think is probably going to happen. That would make sense.
It's all about the other galaxy.
That's
what you're pushing
That's what I
right
think.
now.
That's what I think things are going. And if for some reason Anakin is walking around in this other galaxy, well, guess what? It's a different galaxy, and you have a witch talking about space and time, and you have the whole Force ghost thing and how this isn't a giant leap.
A survivor.
She's a witch. Stop.
If Anakin is walking around in a different galaxy, I don't care. He's still walking around. The thing is, though, is they found a way to open a portal. This is now a portal. No.
It's the same as Lightspeed. It's just really far.
No. The world between worlds is now a portal.
Okay.
You roll your eyes like you don't believe it, but that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
You don't believe it.
I don't know yet.
What do you mean you don't know yet?
We'll see.
What? You watched it.
I did, but we've only seen it in this one instance.
Didn't you watch Rebels?
Yes.
Hold on.
They just said that Ezra went here in Rebels.
Yeah.
If they're You kind of have to be on board with this, Lee. You're the one who keeps going on about canon and not canon. You you can't just say with this one.
I know, but the thing is, I don't know where they're gonna take it live action.
I think that
and how far they're gonna go with it.
They're gonna go as far as they can.
Yeah,
and they're gonna introduce time. They just introduced
actual
time travel.
I'll even give you this. I'll even give you this.
Hold on, before you go, hold on, because Ezra went in and actually took Ahsoka into there when he found a doorway. Now there is a doorway that they could go in and to draw people out. I'm willing to bet they're going to use that doorway somehow. Anakin, they're going to go back in, butterfly effect, pull Anakin into this doorway, which will even retcon the original trilogy because it'll be Anakin and not Darth Vader, and he's going to come back and then step out after everything happened.
Are you against it?
Yes.
Okay.
Because then Darth Vader never came to be. It was always just Anakin.
Right now, I'm not against this. Right now, I'm loving the fact that this was awesome, and I love it for Hayden Christensen's career. I hope something turns around for him. I really do. And if the rest of his career is just Disney and Star Wars and Anakin, Darth Vader type stuff, you know what? Good. Sign that contract, make your money. I'm 100% on board with things like this. However, I will say this. Do I think it's good for Star Wars in the long run? No. In the long run, long term, kind of like the same way we look back on like 08, 9, and 10 with the MCU. Like, this is not good for movies in the long run, long term. Let's think ahead.
Right.
Same thing here. I do not think this is going to be good for Star Wars in the long term.
No. Because
eventually somebody besides Dave Filoni is going to come along and do whatever they want, and they're not going to take care of it. That's eventually going to happen. We're not there yet, though. Right now, let's just right now. I love it.
This is Endgame has already happened, and let's try to bring the characters we all love back.
Well, I mean, Tony's still dead.
For right now.
I know. I know.
But that's the thing though, is they found a way to bring he's not a Force ghost. He's not a Force ghost. I'm gonna look it up.
It's a valid complaint. I'm not gonna say that it's not a valid complaint. It absolutely is. I still love it though. I thought this was awesome. And whatever they decide to do with this, I'm on board with it. We've seen worse. There could have been so many worse ways this could have been handled.
Absolutely.
It could have been what I thought. They're going to another galaxy and everybody's alive again and we're just gonna move on. Like, that's what I thought they were gonna do. That's kind of where my mind went. But this whole world between worlds thing is fascinating to me. I just hope they don't abuse it. That's all. I just hope they don't abuse it.
It's good as a tool, not as the main story. So I think we should just
move along
and get to a few other parts about it. You know, I know we know how we all feel.
Now, do we have to talk about these whales?
Yes,
we
do.
So stupid. This was so stupid. This was so stupid. I hated this.
So here's what I'm gonna say.
Hang on. No, wait.
The whales.
Okay, fine. Go.
Let's talk about Jason. I want to talk about Jason for a moment. Jason Syndulla, who was the son of Kanan Jarrus and Hera Syndulla. At the very end of Rebels, after Ezra takes Thrawn with the Purrgil, and they just boom. They did an amazing adaptation here in how they take off in light speed. Their eyes start to glow a little bit, then their butts glow, and then they're gone. It looked just like in the show. It was really awesome. But it was really cool that the way they're having here. So Jason, even spelled the same Jacen, was originally Jason Solo in the Legend series. So there was Jason and like Jaden or something like that. Basically, they were twins, boy and a girl, that Han and Leia had. What?
Twins. This storyline hasn't been done before.
Well, I mean, twins happens in families. It's genetic, you know. It gets passed down.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, it's hereditary. That happens.
It usually skips generations.
It could.
It usually skips a generation.
Yeah, but when the midichlorians are really, really high, then it might not. So in this case, I mean, first of all, let's talk about this immaculate conception with Anakin in the first place, and then obviously things aren't normal in this gene, this gene pool here.
Okay. I'm gonna
Midichlorians.
Midichlorians.
just because in Phantom Menace she says there was no father does not mean that she did not know a guy and have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women say there is no father.
Okay.
Because the guy gets her pregnant and then takes off.
Yeah, they know each other in the biblical sense.
Well, see, midichlorians. So,
yeah.
I mean, Qui-Gon told us. So,
hey, we're still trying to figure out how Sheev had a child. I mean,
well, they left that there. They left it open there specifically for conversations like this.
Yeah. So, I just want to say, like, Jason, the way that they're doing it here and making Jason force sensitive. Obviously, Jason's not Jason Solo, but it's cool that they work this character in to kind of give us that, even though it's not considered canon, any of the legend stuff. I did like that he was like, "Can you hear that in the waves?" And he's hearing, like, through the waves, hearing the lightsaber battle. I thought it was really cool. And like his conversations with Hu Yang, which I didn't even connect it before. Yeah, Hu Yang. It's a weird name for a droid. But I do remember Hu Yang in the show, and he actually was voiced by David Tennant in the show as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So I didn't make that connection before. I didn't know that back then.
I always like when things like that crop up. I love that. I love that kind of knowledge.
Yeah,
that's
well,
really
look
cool.
at Katie Sackhoff, who was Bo-Katan. Same actor, same voice actor, and everything. She carried over.
It was really cool because Hayden Christensen played Anakin Skywalker back in the original.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right.
Wow, that's a fact.
I love when stuff like that happens.
Very astute of you, Chuck.
And what they're gonna do is they're gonna mix it with his character in Jumper, and that's how he's jumping through time.
No,
now that's a hot garbage movie.
Whoa!
Jumper is a trash movie.
Okay, it had potential.
No, it didn't.
It did, but it didn't.
It didn't. It didn't have potential.
It did not take advantage of it.
The concept is cool.
Samuel L. Jackson built a device so he could travel through the portal as well. And the guy just didn't think to travel through another portal because look how long it took him to set that machine up. The movie makes no sense after that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
He's chasing him with a taser that looks like a lightsaber.
Pretty much.
I bet you it's a BMF
Pretty
on
much.
it too. But anyway, Jason, he's having the conversation. I like when you get the conversation later on where he's like, "Oh, Ahsoka was tenacious, just like her master." Oh, what was he like? He was intense.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. And we get this whole thing basically after everything that we talked about. They find Ahsoka because she sank down to the bottom. She comes back up, whatever. They pick her up. It was really weird to see her without the headband. So whenever they showed, the Twi'leks, or I always forget what her race is.
This I did not like. She
What,
basically comes back as Gandalf the Grey, or the White, or whatever you want to call it.
I guess so.
She basically comes back anew, and then she's talking to whales.
She had near-death experience. Well, no, the talking to whales things, that was an Ezra thing. He did that because he, was able to connect with creatures. Actually, it was his big thing was he was able to connect with creatures through the Force.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like she gained this because she, almost died.
That's how I took it. That's how I took it. Okay, so you went somewhere, you almost died. Anakin saved your life and fought with you for a little while, and you come back, and now you can communicate with whales. Great.
That's not what I got. I just got that she finally got a stick out of her butt.
That's not what you got. That's exactly what happened. I'm not talking. There's no hyperbole or guesswork here. That's what happened. She died. Anakin taught her to fight a little bit better, and she came back and she communicated with a whale.
What you're saying is Anakin taught her how to speak to whales.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying that.
Then. Well, that's
I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that's what happened. That's what happened.
Anakin taught her how to live.
Yeah, how to live. Ah, yes.
And she comes back. She comes back. She puts on a white shawl, puts her hand out, and that's it. That's it. That's what she learned.
So here's the thing. Everything you guys are saying is fantastic. If Anakin came back as a Force ghost and did training with her, I'd be on board. I'd be fine with that. outside of the fact that they're trying to bring him back as Anakin Skywalker after 40 years of him being dead.
He's Anakin.
He's been dead for
It's
40
Anakin.
years. He's been dead for 40 years.
It's Anakin Skywalker.
He has been dead for 40 years. He literally died
was dead and he came back.
Because of love. We had this conversation.
Rainbows.
We had this
rainbows.
conversation.
You can't die because I love you.
You know, technically, technically, we didn't see his body burning on that pyre. We just saw the mask.
Oh my god.
Technically.
But we saw his Force ghost
We saw
immediately after.
Force ghost.
Okay, fine.
So he died 40 years ago.
Right.
And this is their way of trying to bring him back. And now that he is in the world between worlds, unless right before he died, he magically poof.
And no, this can't be 40 years ago.
He died in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Darth Vader died in the early in our timeline.
In our timeline, yeah, but no, hold on. This is like 9 years after.
I'm talking about
Empire.
I'm not talking about Star Wars timeline.
All right.
I'm talking about the 40 years of lore history that we have in our history. He died 40 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And surprise. He's back. You want to know why he's back?
Why?
Freaking Disney. Freaking Disney had to go back and bring him back to life. Outside of that, this episode was fantastic.
Grogu is much more egregious than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Disney not the Mandalorian or Disney, whatever you want, not sticking to their guns and writing Grogu off of the show ruined that television show.
Yeah, but that was not the first thing they did.
No. But I'm saying it's worse. It's worse than Anakin. It's worse than Anakin being alive.
It is because no one likes Grogu. The only thing that I'm gonna go back to what we talked about with. I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about. I know. I'm gonna go back to our conversations with Marvel. Cash cow.
Yeah.
They wanted a way to bring him back in.
But it's not. But
then they wrote him out.
No.
They wrote him out.
No, Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
They didn't listen. Listen. There are worse ways that this could have been done.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're sticking with like Disney and what they've been doing, they could have just brought him back in and explained nothing. Oh, there he is. How you doing? Hey guys. That's kind
like they did with Rhodey's legs.
That's kind of the way I saw it.
How come nobody remembers that his legs are broken?
Which, if time travel to this extent was introduced to Star Wars back in the beginning, it would make sense. The fact of them trying to introduce another galaxy is fine. It expands the universe.
So then, Lee.
But you don't need need time travel to go to a different galaxy.
When was the concept of the world between worlds introduced? Do you know?
I don't remember. Honestly, when I watched these shows, it was like binging.
So was it? I don't mean like exactly when. Like, are we talking Rebels? Are we talking like one of the books that was written before that? Like where? Okay.
Rebels is. I mean, I didn't read all the books. So and again, most of the books I read are all legends.
Fine.
Although I did just realize I've got 2 other trilogies I have to read that are considered canon.
Okay.
They keep making Thrawn trilogies. Like, not just here's another Thrawn book. It's like, no, here's another Thrawn trilogy. They've been making since like 2015. They just keep making them. It's all Timothy Zahn, who's a great writer, and he wrote the original Thrawn trilogy back in the early 90s. So I'm gonna read them. They're on my list.
So does the World Between Worlds happen back in the 90s in the Thrawn trilogy? Like,
no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
So this is Rebels.
This is Rebels.
Okay.
I can't imagine it being anywhere else. I mean,
before that. You can't imagine it being before that.
there are some books that are relevant. There's Vision of the Future and Spectre of the Past, and those are some very famous books that they did. But I don't know
The
if
title
those are.
alone. The title
Yeah,
alone.
but I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know if that's about World Between Worlds and any type of time travel.
Well, what I
It's
just
just,
read,
but that's
talks
what
about it
makes me. But I know that those are they're on my shelf. I just haven't read them yet.
What I just read was all about was the episode in Rebels.
Right, right. And
Okay.
that's
The
the one where she faces off with Vader, because that was sick.
season 2 finale.
Season 2 finale.
That's what it said. Season
Oh.
2 finale.
Season 2
That seems
finale
weird.
of Rebels.
Of
Okay.
Rebels. Rebels.
Well, basically, when she does face off with Vader, it's exactly like the Obi-Wan Kenobi fight that we saw in the show. And when with the helmet comes off and you see the eye, and yeah, it was the other side of the helmet. Yeah, honestly, I don't know what they're gonna do with it, and I'm not gonna try to speculate. I'm just gonna say I really enjoyed what they did with it all here.
Yeah.
One of the purposes of this podcast is to speculate what's going to happen next.
Yeah, but I don't want to right now. I just
yeah,
want to. I just want to
that's
enjoy the warm and fuzzies of what I've got right here.
yeah, that's more a me and you thing, Chuck. He's never been the person to be like, "Oh, this is what I." He's never been that.
I'm not
so
gonna put
can't-
money on it.
We can't. That's always been like that's our thing. So I don't.
Yeah,
push
if
him
they
on
never
that.
do a season 2, we were talking about this one time. If they because it's like 2 years in between, we see the opening preview and all of a sudden
it's
they're
just the two of them kissing.
no, they're both dead. We start off season 2, they're both dead because
Well,
they died in the
But
time.
if they die in each other's arms,
No,
what does that mean?
I still can't wait to cut my $200.
Yeah, well, I think if they're both dead at that point, then the two of you just give each other $100 and call it a day.
Sure.
That's fair, right?
I-
That's 100% fair.
I don't know. I'm with Lee. I'm enjoying the warm and fuzzies of this. I loved this.
See, but when
loved this.
If it wasn't for that one thing, I would be 100% on board.
And I'm not saying that you're wrong. You're raising valid points. I just don't care about them right now because this was so awesome. And so if that makes me blind to it, fine. Maybe in a couple of years when they muck this whole thing up and overdo it, I'll be on board. And I'll look back and say, I was an idiot for signing off on this. Maybe that'll happen. But right now, I'm not there. Mostly because I'm just happy for Hayden Christensen. That's mostly where this is coming from.
But I'm happy for Hayden Christensen too.
Hey!
Good for Hayden Christensen.
But-
Sucky for the rest of us in the Star Wars fandom.
I do want to. I do think we should kind of move on. And I mean, this whale thing.
Hold on, but what did I say last week? The introduction of Anakin is going to take all of the conversation off of Ahsoka and put it on him.
Yeah.
Of course. And you know what?
Because-
I will say one more thing I want to say before we move on. I will say this. Kudos to you, Lee, for last week. Because you avoided the subject of Anakin like the plague. You did not want to talk about that. I went back and I was when I was editing the thing for the podcast last week, I was like, wow, he's really pivoting hardcore. In retrospect, I understand why now. Because if there's any week to talk about Anakin, it was here. So
Yeah.
good on you.
And
Good
so-
on you.
Also, I saw the episode. I was up late Tuesday night, so it was like midnight, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch the first 10 minutes, and I did, and I'm like, this is really cool. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed now. And the next morning, on my way to work. Now I have a 6-minute drive to work. The show was already on my 6-minute drive to work. I was like, I cannot wait till lunch. And I watched the 6 minutes worth, and then I'm like, okay. Went upstairs, and I was like, I got some stuff done. And then I went upstairs for my meeting, and nobody was up there yet. And like, I got 7 more minutes. I'm like, I'm watching more of it. So I was like ready to go catch this episode, get through it. I was so pumped to see where they were going to go. And then Chuck and I, we ended up going away this weekend with a few other guys up to a lake house. And on the ride, I almost had a conversation with him about it. And he's like, oh, I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, good thing I didn't just finish my statement. Because I was going to get into it. It's like, what did you think about Anakin and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I said when we were driving, I'm like, can we just not talk about this at all? And then when we sat down and we watched it up there, I'm like, can we just make a deal to just not say anything about this until we have our podcast? Because I didn't want to get into it at all. I didn't want to, ruin anything or, pump the brakes or anything when we got here, or run out of steam. But the reality is, like, this episode was a big deal to talk about.
Yes.
From everything else we've seen so far, it's kind of like meh, it's cool, okay. And then this happened.
Deal.
It's amazing.
It's a massive deal. It's not amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway,
the whales.
Let's
go back to the whales.
So,
I have one question before you go. Before she openly says, because she's asked, "Did you tell them where we're going?" And she goes, "No, we're just going to go wherever it takes us."
Yeah. No. She didn't say, "Did you tell them where we're going?" It's like, do they know where we're going? It's different, because it's like, do they know the coordinates? No. Well, then why? It's like, well, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Right, but 6 to 1, half dozen the other. She didn't tell them where they were going.
She doesn't know where they're going, so obviously she couldn't tell anybody where they're going. The whole point is
she's winging
these
this.
These whales must know, because the only ones who can travel there are them. So it's just like, and she says it's very valid. Well, it beats just sitting here and doing nothing. So
True.
Right, so
let's just see if it works.
So the assumption is that this is the only galaxy that they travel to.
It might be. They might just travel between the two because that's their home. Maybe.
It kind of tracks. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about here at all, but I don't think whales in general travel to more than 1 or 2 locations. Like, they usually migrate between one place to another with the seasons. So it kind of makes sense.
Squid whales do the same thing in galaxies in the far, far away.
God, see, I tried. Okay, fine. You think whatever you want to. Okay, so I thought the whales were stupid, but not as stupid as
Anakin.
Stop. As whatever her name is. What's her name? The general lady? I'm bad with names.
Syndulla.
Hera. So Syndulla is talking.
Hera, just say Hera.
Hera is talking to Grand Mothma. Hey, do you have any proof? And she's like, well, no. What do you mean you don't have any proof? There's a bunch of dead people on the planet, and a ship blew up, and there's something else going on. And here's the map that we have that's broken in half, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And we pulled up Ahsoka from drowning in a river. What do you mean no proof? Why would she say that? You have ample proof. You have plenty of proof to state your case and like show people like here that this is. Come on, like, why? And now they're like, well, since you have no proof, we're stripping you of your titles.
I think the reality is this: like,
they're
stupid.
Busy the reality is they're stupid. The reality is this is The reality is this is typical tropey. The leaders or the council or the people in charge have to be stupid, and they don't listen to people who are on the ground. That's all that is. I'm sick of it.
Yes,
I'm tired of
Well,
that.
I'm sorry, but that's what's going on. That's what's happening in all the stuff that's considered canon in the books as well.
We'll
and what I'm and what I'm reading too. So right now I'm 50% through the 3rd book in the Aftermath trilogy, and all it comes down to is everybody's making comments like, New Republic doesn't really have it all together, huh? Like, they're still trying to figure this out, huh? Like, it's just not working out,
They're still
huh?
trying
Like,
to figure it out. They're still trying to figure it out.
Mon Mothma's just like, she's like, everybody's sneaking behind Mon Mothma's back because she's not able to wear 50,000 hats. And that's the problem. It's like, even like Leia's sneaking behind her back and all this stuff is happening there. But here it's like everybody's focusing on their own mission. And here it's like, we can't back you up and we're going to strip you of your title. I'm sorry, but like, I got nothing to fight to back you up with. You don't have any hard evidence. Like, I guess I kind of agree with you, but the reality is I agree with them too, because you've got nothing to give me for me to prove them otherwise.
Except for the dead people.
The dead people? What dead people? Where are they seeing the dead people?
Well, okay, you have a couple of guys who got shot in their X-Wings. They got shot down, so I'm pretty sure their ship is somewhere. They had a shootout lightsaber battle thing or whatever happened a couple of episodes ago, so there are dead people from that. You have the one Sith guy that turned into dust. Like, you have...
But the point is, do you have any evidence of Thrawn's coming back? No. Did you capture the person you were sent to capture? No. If anything, no. She captured Elsbeth and then lost her. I mean, they lost her, but then she didn't find her. So they're trying to go back and get her. That's the whole point here. So it's going to be...
I just thought of something. Leia's gonna meet Anakin,
Oh.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Oh boy.
not as Darth Vader, as Anakin.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
boy.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
Because
Mom?
she's still
No,
alive.
not mom.
Dad.
Dad. And then Shmi's gonna show up.
Oh,
Well, no, he's gonna go.
Shmi's gonna show up.
He's gonna go. It worked.
Yep. So, I have a question about the Purgle. Now, it made sense. It made sense in Rebels. They're flying in space. How are they flying in an atmosphere, not in space? How are they flying? I'm sorry, but going like this with your giant fat body and with your little flipper things is not flying. You're not flying that way. It makes sense in space to propel and move forward and up and down, maybe, but I don't see how they're flying in atmosphere. Go ahead.
I'm with you.
I know they travel through light speed.
Travel at light
I understand. I understand.
When they
That
get
doesn't even
ready
make
to
sense.
when they get ready to go to hyperspace or to light speed, they do exactly what the Starship Enterprise does, and you can see the hyper engines like starting to glow blue, and then it ping and it goes.
Well, it's the same as Star Wars as well.
You don't see it in
You do see it in Star Wars. It does it all the time, especially
How many times have we been looking at the back of a ship
No, you're right.
before it jumps into
they,
light speed?
They
Come on.
start to get brighter and brighter, and then bing, it goes.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
These are
This is-
creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'm being picky here, but it still is funny to me because these are gigantic mammals.
I think it would have been funny.
Just
I
are
think
somehow flying.
I think it would have been funny if, because they're half squid, when they went to light speed, if they left ink.
Yeah.
ink trails. People are just flying around like, what's all this
It's
ink?
so it's stupid.
It's quite stupid.
It is
You know,
really
they-
stupid.
They,
And it just
they
made it
must have-
even worse because Ahsoka was again standing on her ship and just puts her hand out, and I'm like, come on.
You just don't like Ahsoka standing on ships.
The two things that she's done on ships while outside of them have been pretty ridiculous so far.
And you're still surprised that Anakin can defeat death. Like, okay, so we have Ahsoka who's talking to mammals and jumping in their mouth in a giant ship, and these mammals could jump to light
away
speed.
we go.
Luke
Yeah.
can astral project himself a great distance away. Yoda can be a Force ghost and come back and burn down a temple. But Anakin defeating death is that's a line too far for you. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yeah.
No, Anakin defeating death is not a line that's too far. That's too far for me. It's not. It's the fact that he already died. Him defeating death before it happens is one thing, but the fact that 40 years ago, our time, he literally died. He's a Force ghost, and now he's being brought back to life.
yay.
Defeating, no,
Yay.
no. Defeating death is
Ah.
one thing. Like, oh, if it was like when we were talking about Vanilla Sky,
Vanilla Ice?
Vanilla Sky,
Oh, okay.
when he was brought to this dream world, doing it after he died when they were freezing him, whatever he did, doing it after he died makes no sense. Doing it right before he dies makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That way they could take care of, they could heal him up, do whatever. He's, his conscious is doing one thing, his body's doing different. If they did that and they made it away, unless they cloned him, which they didn't, but he already died. This is changing the original trilogy. It's walking on the edge of a knife, as that review said. Dave Filoni is walking on the edge of a knife, and it's touching the original trilogy. If they retcon the original trilogy, I'm done with Star Wars.
I don't think they're gonna go that far with it.
No.
If they take Anakin,
Filoni won't do it.
if they take Anakin out of the world before he becomes Darth Vader, it retcons automatically the original trilogy.
Well, this is not before he becomes Darth Vader.
It's just before he's Anakin. It's before he becomes Darth Vader.
No, it's
What
not.
is? What is before he's Anakin? Before he what?
The TV show that we just watched.
Yeah.
It's before he becomes Darth Vader.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's
This
not.
Is after he. This is after he's Darth Vader. This is him after he's dead. It's him, the Force Ghost.
It's not a Force Ghost.
He is. This is after everything.
This is after Jedi.
This is him after Jedi.
I know the episode takes place
No,
after...
he is him after Jedi. Absolutely 100%. That's why he knows everything. That's why he's going between the two, Vader and Anakin. It's after.
No.
It's the lesson he
Yes,
learned. Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is after Jedi.
This is after. This is
It
not.
is everything that's taken place here is well after
Yes.
Jedi.
I know the episode is after Jedi.
No. He is after
no,
Jedi.
No.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Can't be.
120%.
Can't be.
Yes, he can.
Absolutely.
What do you mean he
is.
No, he
can't
can't.
be?
Is.
Why?
Look
No,
at his
he can't
face.
But
he has
he is.
wrinkles.
I know that he is physically 20
No,
years older.
listen.
It can't be. You want to know why? You want to know why?
Why?
Because he's dead.
That's why he's in the world between worlds.
No,
Exactly.
she's physically in the world between
You know
worlds.
what
Her
happened?
consciousness isn't. She is physically in the world between worlds, which means he is physically in
That
the
is
world.
a theory, correct?
Yes.
Yes. That is
And
a
it's-
theory.
it's
He
very-
is literally the Anakin after he was redeemed with his son when he threw the Emperor down the pit.
100%.
That is it.
But when Ezra went into the world between worlds, when she originally went into the world between worlds, she didn't mentally go there. She
No. But he is there.
He's there.
physically, yes.
And
I
this
know,
is
not
very
as a-
much Anakin after Jedi.
Yes, absolutely. That's
And
the whole point.
That's why it makes absolutely zero sense.
That's why he said, I've heard that before. Because it's after Jedi.
I get that. But what I'm saying is he died.
No.
Yeah.
Don't tell me no.
He became one with the Force.
He's
He is not a Force ghost.
well, no, he's dead.
He is.
He's dead. If you want to call this a resurrection, fine. But this is very
That's
much
why it's stupid.
no, but you can't
That's
say
why it's That's why it's stupid.
you can't say that it's before Jedi though. You can't say that he never became Vader. This is clearly after Jedi.
Okay, so I'll walk that part back. The only reason why I'm saying that is because he's Anakin and he goes back to the Clone Wars with her. That's the only reason. That's the only way that would make sense to me. If this is actually him after Return, he's dead. He is dead. I'm sorry. He died in 1983.
Force ghost.
He's not a Force ghost.
He is. And that's why he looks this way in the world between worlds.
he's not a Force ghost either. He's
But
not
he
a Force-
goes back-
I'm not I can't get on board with
when
that one.
she
He's not a
goes
Force
back to
ghost.
her, when she goes back to her younger self, he is still the older him. He's still him.
There are holes in your theory. at
The
this point
answer
now, because
here,
now
the answer
Where is
here.
the hole? Hold
Hang
on.
on.
Where's the hole in my theory? When she goes back to the Clone Wars, he is still the right now him.
no, he's not.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. That's why
His-
he looks the way he did when you first see him with the short hair, exactly like he did in Clone Wars. And then you see him with longer hair, the way that he looked at that point, because he wasn't at that Battle of Mandalore. She even said it. This is where we parted ways. You weren't here for this. So he's a Force ghost.
This
No,
is a
he's
hang on.
not.
This is a mind game for Ahsoka that Anakin is playing.
Yes. Yes. Mind game.
This is a mind game that Anakin is playing. If you want, listen.
Yes.
Anakin is the puppeteer master. Well, the puppeteer. Anakin is.
Yeah.
This is all Anakin's doing. Like wherever she is, how she's alive, all that good stuff.
He's
this
doing
is
it all.
All Anakin's
He is the
doing.
ghost of Christmas past.
Yes, very much so. Very much
Yes.
so. And this is very much Anakin after Jedi. It's how he's
Yes.
able to go back and forth between good and evil, like that whole thing. Like this is very much Anakin after Jedi. If you want to
This
have
is
a
Anakin
problem,
at his final form.
yeah, if you want to have a problem that they're even doing this in the first place, fine. You're perfectly allowed to have that. To each his own. Your opinion is valid. If you want to be mad that Anakin is alive now, even though he's been dead, I will even agree with that. You can have a problem there. But I can't sit here and just let you like fudge with the timeline that they're telling in the story. This is very much taking place after Jedi.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I already said walk that back.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The only issue I have with it is he's dead.
And the answer
I
to that is and will always be midichlorians. That is it. It makes no sense. Midichlorians is a stupid concept, but it's here now, and we have to deal with it, and this is what's happening. I don't know. I don't know. You know what? Maybe a part of me is forgiving it because of the conversation he had with Palpatine in Sith. Like maybe that like that has to play in somehow. And not to mention like fans have been waiting for 20 years for that to kind of come back around, and this is kind of how it is happening, I guess. I guess. Yeah.
I thought the answer was cloning.
How would that work if they cloned Anakin?
Because they're constantly cloning him. And
well, I'm just saying, like, if you clone Anakin, do you clone all of Anakin? Like, do you clone like the midichlorian count and all that, and his abilities and everything else, or is it just going to be like?
That was now you're talking about all the stuff that was going on with Grogu and all the stuff that was going on with Palpatine, and we're getting back into the big clone talk.
Well, they cloned the Emperor, and he came back.
Right. And that's the whole point, is that's what they were trying. It seemed like they were getting at with Grogu, is they were using Grogu in order to successfully clone the Emperor.
It seemed like that's what they were trying to do in that one episode of Mandalorian with the cloning engineer guy. Like they brought him in for a reason. Like
right.
But that would be a way.
That would be a way.
Of never dying. And then as you're getting older, clone yourself. Right when you're cloned, you clone other. That way, it takes years for him to grow up, and then he'll live 60 years beyond that age. And then you do it again. And
I don't know, it just does not. It does not surprise me that the most powerful entity in the galaxy is able to do this. It doesn't surprise me. It's not shocking.
Yeah. I hate it.
Okay.
I absolutely hate.
Okay, go ahead and hate it.
If this was during the Clone Wars and something like this happened, fine. The fact that two things I hate: the fact that they're introducing time travel to live action Star Wars or to Star Wars at all is irritating, because it's one of the sci-fi movies that never had time travel in it, and I was fine with that. And then they bring back a dead character.
Some of the best movies have time travel.
When they're baked into it from the beginning, yes. When
Avengers Endgame was pretty cool. You can't say that wasn't cool. It was pretty cool.
That was
amazing.
But it was a type of movie that was fine with that. It's not like it was all leading up to that, and it was supposed to. I'm fine with that.
Maybe and there was like 60 years of lore with the Infinity Stones or something like that, some ridiculous amount of time. So that was pre-baked in.
Yeah, it was pre-baked in. That was possible. What I'm saying is, when they brought the Emperor back in...
Stupid.
Everybody hated it. Everybody hated it.
Yes.
But they bring Anakin back and everyone loves it. No.
Well, the Emperor, I don't know why, but he looked younger. Wasn't he weird looking? He looked like a regular old dude, just old with blind eyes. That was it.
He looked hideous.
Sidious.
He looked
Sidious.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But what I'm saying is nobody liked it. But hey, you know what? Kill Darth Vader. Bring him back. Everyone loves it. If they want to bring him back by going back, like what they did with the prequels, and actually show him becoming, or with Clone Wars, or with Rebels, and showing, or even with Rogue One, when they brought Darth Vader into it, even though he's dead, this is pre-trilogy.
Yeah,
I'm fine, because you have all this history up until A New Hope,
which is why I like this. I like that they had the redeemed Anakin here. They had the redeemed Anakin here, and that's what I loved about his return to the screen.
But he was redeemed and returned to the screen with Hayden Christensen in the digitally remastered reboot of Return.
No.
And they brought
he stood there and he looked and smiled. That was it. This was amazing. And this was the best.
Yeah.
No.
Agree to disagree.
If they brought him back as a Force ghost and wanted to teach her something like that as a Force ghost, fine.
He just did.
He's not a Force ghost.
He's not a Force ghost.
He's not a Force ghost. She had a physical light. She was physically there having a lightsaber battle with him. If he was a Force ghost,
you're saying physically there. If you take that theory out of the equation, it all makes perfect sense.
But you can't take that theory.
Yes, you can.
So
yes, you can. It's all in her head.
So then she's drowning underwater for an hour and a half, 2 hours. While
she might be floating.
No,
on her back.
She's drowning,
sustained by the Force
until the very
so
end.
I want to get off this. This has been an argument that's going on for a while now.
The only reason why it's an argument is because you're holding on to.
Let's
theory that it's all really happening, and not in her head.
Well,
her head makes more sense.
Well, so the world between worlds actually happened, and they actually went there in Rebels, but in this case, it's in her head.
Maybe
no. She's physically.
You're holding on to somebody else bringing up something from the past. Sure, makes sense, but it also could just be in her head. Not just because they did it one thing doesn't mean that they're obviously doing it here. No, it could be in her head, and it makes more sense that it's in her head because of what just happened there. What went through? The fact it doesn't look like a Force ghost. The fact they went through her past in her head. You're not going to say that in a Christmas story or a Christmas Carol that he really went around and flew around the town. It was a dream, and then he woke up and says, buy a goose.
I get that, but everybody says that the world between worlds is like a doorway to the past, present, and future.
Absolutely. Good job reading somebody else's.
Let it be. Let it be the doorway. Let it be the doorway. I'm fine with it as long as they don't overdo it. I do have like a little speculation thing going on here. Depending on the road that they want to take with Anakin. I mean, is Darth Plagueis a thing that ever happens?
Not sure.
Because it's the only thing that makes sense. Like, if we're hanging on to the whole thing about, like, Anakin being here and he cheated death and blah, 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 if it was a real place, the only thing that makes sense is that conversation from Sith. Like, it's the only thing that you can, like, grab onto for, like, any kind of explanation for what's happening. And that's kind of what I'm doing. Or is it, I other than that, I'm kind of up in the air on it. I don't know. I just hope they don't go overboard with this. But anyways.
They're going to. It's Disney.
So... And another thing, are we just going to get, like, a whole episode of her, like, Ahsoka in a mouth? Like...
I don't know. Whatever. I think we've beaten this, dead horse here at this point.
So do I.
But, I mean, just because we can talk about things, what do you guys think about Carson Teva? His character? Captain Teva, the dude with the beard.
Yeah,
the one who like came back from Mandalorian and is here.
Is he supposed to be the comedic relief?
Yeah,
he's not funny.
He's not funny.
Not at all.
He's more like awkward. And the thing is, he's just fan service because people appreciated his character before, so he was brought back for this. I mean, it was. I kind of like the way he handled the situation. It's like, oh, well, not until after she's completed the mission. She's like, there is no mission. I respectfully disagree.
Okay, so he's a pilot. He's a pilot, and there are people with rank telling him, dude, come on.
But Hera is ranking above them anyway. All of them. Yeah, that was Fleet Command, but Hera's a general. So therefore, it's like I am following my general.
Okay.
While she's still a general.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't like
that's
him.
What.
I think he was shoehorned in. He's shoehorned into this. He doesn't. It doesn't feel like it fits.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I feel like too.
Yeah.
It worked for what they were doing, but it is definitely shoehorned and kind of pushed in. Yeah. That's all I want to touch upon. But I feel like we're done with this. Now we're going to talk about a show that's like,
yeah,
compared to this now.
Yeah, man. That's why I wanted to start with this. I wanted to start with this because it was like, I was so excited. I couldn't. I was holding on, and I didn't want to. So yeah, Titans can be the come down. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks guys for sticking around and listening to us and watching and listening to us argue about theories of what might be going on here. Maybe we'll see. I mean, we'll see more of it. We'll understand it as it goes on, or maybe Disney will just take a total 180 and never talk about this again, never explain it. I highly doubt that.
That would be amazing. That would be fantastic.
what you didn't know is an aerospace engineer invented this world between worlds.
If that happens here, if they just abandon this entire thing and they never speak of it again, that would be amazing. I'd laugh. I'd laugh.
Yeah.
Oh
But
man. All right.
We shall see.
That's
All right.
it.
Well, thanks, you guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Lee from Black and White Reviews here. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in, checking out our conversation. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more about this specific subject or other things, check us out on our podcasting sites, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, or Google Podcasts. We're up on pretty much all of them. So, yeah, thanks again for popping by. And, yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.